What happens when America's sweetheart finally reaches her breaking point? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most shocking moments in late-night television history, where Jennifer Aniston, known for her grace and professionalism, completely lost her composure on Jimmy Kimmel Live. This wasn't your typical celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a calculated ambush that left one of Hollywood's most beloved stars questioning everything she thought she knew about media manipulation. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really happened behind the scenes. The evening started like any other taping of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jennifer Aniston had arrived at the studio in good spirits, promoting her latest project and looking forward to what she believed would be a light-hearted conversation with someone she considered a friend. She had appeared on Kimmel's show multiple times over the years, always enjoying their banter and the comfortable atmosphere he typically created for his guests. The pre-show meeting had gone smoothly, with Kimmel's producers assuring her that they would focus on her upcoming film and maybe touch on some fun behind-the-scenes stories from her friends' days. As Jennifer settled into the guest chair, the studio audience erupted in their usual warm applause. She waved graciously, her million-dollar smile lighting up the room as she adjusted her elegant black dress and prepared for what she thought would be another pleasant chat. Kimmel, sitting behind his desk with his characteristic smirk, seemed relaxed and friendly as the cameras began rolling. "Jennifer Aniston, everybody," Kimmel announced to the audience, his voice carrying that familiar tone that had made him a household name. "Always a pleasure to have you here, Jennifer. You look absolutely stunning as always." "Thank you, Jimmy," Jennifer replied, her voice warm and genuine. "It's great to be back. I always love coming on your show." But something felt different this time. There was an edge to Kimmel's demeanor that Jennifer couldn't quite place, a subtle shift in his usual energy that made her slightly uncomfortable. She pushed the feeling aside, attributing it to her own nerves about the upcoming film release. "So, let's talk about your new movie," Kimmel began, leaning forward slightly. "Another romantic comedy, I see. Tell me, Jennifer, don't you ever get tired of playing the same character over and over again?" The question hit like a slap. Jennifer's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, maintaining her composure despite the unexpected hostility in his tone. "Well, Jimmy, I wouldn't say I play the same character," she replied carefully. "Each role brings its own challenges and nuances. I'm always looking for ways to grow as an actress." Kimmel's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "Come on, Jennifer, let's be honest here. America's sweetheart trapped in romantic comedy purgatory. When was the last time you took a real risk with your career?" The studio audience shifted, uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't the Jimmy Kimmel they were used to seeing with his guests. Jennifer felt her heart rate increase as she realized this wasn't going to be the friendly interview she had expected. "I think I've taken plenty of risks throughout my career," she said, her voice remaining steady despite the growing tension. "From independent films to dramatic roles, I've always tried to challenge myself artistically." "Have you, though?" Kimmel pressed, his tone becoming more aggressive. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been coasting on your Friends fame for the past 2 decades. Same hair, same smile, same predictable performances." Jennifer's hands clenched slightly in her lap, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "Jimmy, I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish here, but I came on your show to talk about my work in a respectful environment." "Respectful?" Kimmel laughed, but the sound was cold and mocking. "Jennifer, this is television. This is entertainment. Sometimes respect takes a backseat to honesty. And honestly, I think the audience deserves to hear some real talk about your career choices." The atmosphere in the studio had become electric with tension. The audience sat in stunned silence as they watched one of Hollywood's most beloved figures being systematically torn down by a host who seemed determined to humiliate her on national television. "Real talk?" Jennifer repeated, her voice beginning to show the first signs of strain. You want real talk, Jimmy? How about we talk about how you invited me here under false pretenses? How about we discuss the fact that your producers assured me this would be a positive interview about my upcoming film? Kimmel shrugged dismissively. Things change, Jennifer. That's show business. I thought you would have learned that by now, given how long you've been playing the same character in different movies. I am not playing the same character, Jennifer said, her voice rising slightly. And frankly, I'm starting to wonder if this is some kind of joke that I'm not in on. No joke, Kimmel replied, his eyes glinting with something that looked almost like malice. Just honest conversation between two professionals. Although I have to ask, do you really consider yourself a professional when you haven't challenged yourself artistically in years? Jennifer took a deep breath, trying to center herself. She had dealt with difficult interviews before, but nothing quite like this. The personal nature of Kimmel's attacks was unlike anything she had experienced from someone she had considered a friend. Jimmy, I've worked with some of the most respected directors in Hollywood, she said, her voice carefully controlled. I've been nominated for awards. I've built a successful production company, and I've used my platform to support causes I believe in. I'm proud of my body of work. Your body of work, Kimmel repeated mockingly. Let me ask you this, Jennifer. When people think of great actresses of your generation, where do you honestly think you rank? Are you up there with the Meryl Streeps and the Kate Blanchetts, or are you more in the Sandra Bullock, playing it safe category? The comparison stung, and Jennifer felt her carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. I don't think it's fair or productive to pit women against each other in that way, she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Oh, so now we're playing the gender card? Kimmel smirked. That's convenient. When the going gets tough, blame it on sexism in Hollywood. I'm not blaming anything on sexism, Jennifer shot back, her patience finally beginning to wear thin. I'm simply saying that your line of questioning is inappropriate and unprofessional. I came here to promote my film, not to be ambushed by someone I thought was a friend. The word friend seemed to trigger something in Kimmel, and his expression hardened even further. Friend? Jennifer, this is business. This is television. If you can't handle a few tough questions, maybe you should stick to your safe little romantic comedies where nobody expects you to actually act. The studio audience gasped audibly at the viciousness of the comment. Jennifer's face flushed with a mixture of anger and humiliation as she realized that Kimmel wasn't just being difficult, he was being deliberately cruel. Jennifer's face flushed with a mixture of anger and humiliation as she realized that Kimmel wasn't just being difficult, he was being deliberately cruel. Something inside her snapped, and for the first time in her decades-long career, America's sweetheart decided she wasn't going to take it anymore. You know what, Jimmy? She said, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level that somehow carried more weight than any shout could have. If you want to talk about acting, let's talk about the performance you're putting on right now, because this isn't the Jimmy Kimmel I know. This is some kind of character you're playing, and frankly, it's not a very good one. Kimmel's smirk faltered slightly, but he pressed on. I'm not playing any character, Jennifer. This is me being honest for once instead of kissing up to every celebrity who walks through that door. Honest? Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know what's honest, Jimmy? The fact that you're sitting there tearing me down because it makes you feel important. Because deep down, you know you're just a talk show host who never had the courage to take the real risks you're accusing me of not taking. The audience was completely silent now, sensing that they were witnessing something unprecedented. This wasn't just a difficult interview anymore. This was a full-scale war between two entertainment industry veterans, and Jennifer had just fired her first real shot. Kimmel's face darkened. Are you seriously going to sit there and lecture me about courage? You, who has spent your entire post-Friends career playing it safe, taking the easy paychecks, and coasting on your likability? Playing it safe. Jennifer's voice rose, and she leaned forward in her chair. Jimmy, do you have any idea what it's like to be a woman in this industry? Do you know what it's like to be constantly judged, not just on your talent, but on your age, your appearance, your personal life? Every role I take is scrutinized. Every choice I make is dissected by people like you who think they know better. Oh, please, Kimmel shot back. Spare me the victim narrative. You're one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood. You've got more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. Don't act like you're struggling. This isn't about money, Jimmy, and you know it, Jennifer said, her voice beginning to shake with emotion. This is about respect. This is about the fact that you invited me here under false pretenses so you could humiliate me on national television. What kind of person does that to someone they claim to know? Kimmel shrugged, his callousness becoming more apparent with each passing moment. The kind of person who's tired of pretending that mediocrity deserves celebration. The kind of person who thinks maybe it's time for some honesty in Hollywood. Mediocrity? Jennifer repeated, and something in her voice made everyone in the studio sit up straighter. Jimmy, let me tell you about mediocrity. Mediocrity is a talk show host who thinks he's clever for blindsiding guests. Mediocrity is someone who confuses cruelty with honesty. Mediocrity is building your career on other people's backs, and then having the audacity to judge their choices. The color drained from Kimmel's face, but he wasn't backing down. At least, I'm not living in denial about what I am. I'm a talk show host, Jennifer. I don't pretend to be some great artist. But you keep pretending that your latest romantic comedy is somehow groundbreaking cinema. I have never claimed that my romantic comedies are groundbreaking cinema, Jennifer said, her voice steady despite the fire in her eyes. But I have brought joy to millions of people. I have created characters that audiences connect with. I have built something meaningful. What have you built, Jimmy? What legacy are you leaving behind besides this moment right here, where you decided to tear down someone who trusted you? Kimmel's jaw tightened. My legacy is 20 years of honest entertainment. 20 years of calling things like I see them. And what I see sitting across from me is someone who's afraid to admit that their best days are behind them. The cruelty of the comment hung in the air, like a toxic cloud. Jennifer sat back in her chair, and for a moment it looked like she might break down completely. But instead, something remarkable happened. She straightened her shoulders, looked directly into the camera, and spoke with a clarity and strength that commanded everyone's attention. You know what, Jimmy? You're right about one thing. My best days might be behind me. But at least when I look back on my career, I can say that I tried to bring something positive into the world. I can say that I treated people with kindness and respect. I can say that I never used my platform to deliberately hurt someone who trusted me. She turned back to face Kimmel directly. Can you say the same? When you go home tonight and look at yourself in the mirror, will you be proud of what you did here? Will you be proud of the fact that you ambushed someone who considered you a friend? Kimmel's confidence was beginning to waver, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. I'll be proud that I finally had an honest conversation with Jennifer Aniston instead of the usual fluff piece that everyone expects. Honest conversation, Jennifer's voice cracked with emotion. Jimmy, there's nothing honest about what you're doing. This is pure cruelty dressed up as journalism. This is you getting your kicks by trying to break someone down on national television. I'm not trying to break you down, Kimmel protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what are you trying to do? Jennifer demanded. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you decided before I even walked in here that you were going to make me look foolish. You decided that you were going to use your platform to humiliate me. And for what? For ratings. For your own. Amusement? Kimmel opened his mouth to respond, but Jennifer wasn't finished. Do you know what the saddest part of all this is, Jimmy? I actually respected you. I thought you were one of the good ones. I thought you understood that behind all the celebrity nonsense, we're just people trying to do our jobs and live our lives. But you don't see me as a person, do you? You see me as content. You see me as something to be consumed and discarded for your entertainment. The emotion in her voice was raw and real, and even some of the camera operators could be seen wiping their eyes. This wasn't just about a difficult interview anymore. This was about the fundamental lack of humanity in how celebrities are often treated by the media. Kimmel, perhaps realizing that he had gone too far, tried to regain some control. Jennifer, I think you're being a little dramatic here. This is just a conversation between two professionals. Dramatic? Jennifer's voice rose again, and this time she didn't try to contain her anger. Jimmy, you've spent the last 15 minutes systematically attacking my career, my choices, and my character. You have questioned my talent, my integrity, and my worth as an artist. And now you're telling me I'm being dramatic for having an emotional response to your cruelty? She stood up from her chair, her hands shaking with barely controlled rage. You know what's dramatic, Jimmy? What's dramatic is a grown man who thinks it's acceptable to treat another human being this way. What's dramatic is someone who uses their power and platform to bully someone who came here in good faith. Kimmel looked genuinely shocked that she had stood up. Jennifer, please sit down. We're in the middle of an interview. No, Jimmy, she said, her voice firm and unwavering. We're not in the middle of an interview. We're in the middle of an ambush, and I'm done being your victim. No, Jimmy, she said, her voice firm and unwavering. We're not in the middle of an interview. We're in the middle of an ambush, and I'm done being your victim. The studio fell into complete silence as Jennifer remained standing, her chest rising and falling with the intensity of her emotions. Every person in that room could feel the weight of the moment, understanding that they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. Kimmel, clearly flustered by her refusal to sit back down, tried to regain control of the situation. Jennifer, you're making this much bigger than it needs to be. Why don't you just sit down so we can finish the interview like adults? Like adults. Jennifer's laugh was sharp and bitter. Jimmy, adults don't ambush their guests. Adults don't invite someone onto their show just to tear them apart for entertainment. Adults have something called basic human decency, which you seem to have forgotten somewhere along the way. The camera operators continued filming, knowing they were capturing television history. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to applaud, gasp, or simply witness in stunned silence as one of Hollywood's most beloved figures finally reached her breaking point. Kimmel's face was red now, his carefully constructed persona crumbling under the weight of Jennifer's words. You know what, Jennifer? Maybe this is exactly what people need to see. Maybe they need to see that America's sweetheart isn't so sweet when things don't go her way. When things don't go my way? Jennifer's voice cracked with disbelief. Jimmy, this isn't about things not going my way. This is about you deciding to use your platform to be cruel. This is about you thinking it's acceptable to treat another human being like garbage for your own amusement. She took a step closer to his desk, her voice dropping to that dangerous, quiet tone again. You want to know what people really need to see, Jimmy? They need to see what happens when someone finally stands up to a bully. They need to see what happens when someone refuses to be humiliated for someone else's entertainment. Kimmel stood up behind his desk, perhaps trying to match her energy, but it only made him look more desperate. I'm not a bully, Jennifer. I'm a comedian. I'm a talk show host doing my job. Your job? Jennifer shook her head in disgust. Jimmy, your job is supposed to be entertaining people, not destroying them. Your job is supposed to be creating moments. of joy and laughter, not moments of cruelty and humiliation. If this is what you think your job is, then you're not very good at it. The words hit Kimmel like physical blows, and for the first time since the interview began, he looked genuinely hurt. But Jennifer wasn't finished. 20 years of Hollywood politics, of being diminished and underestimated, of having to smile and be gracious while people took shots at her, all came pouring out. You want to talk about my career, Jimmy? Let's talk about it. Yes, I've made romantic comedies. Yes, I've played characters that people might call similar. But do you know why? Because I believe in bringing joy to people's lives. I believe in creating entertainment that makes people feel good about themselves and about love and about possibility. Her voice grew stronger with each word. I have never, not once in my entire career, used my platform to deliberately hurt someone. I have never invited someone onto a show or into a project with the intention of making them feel small or worthless. I have never confused cruelty with honesty or bullying with entertainment. Kimmel tried to interrupt, but Jennifer held up her hand. No, Jimmy, you've had your say. You've spent the last 20 minutes tearing me down, questioning my talent, attacking my choices, and trying to humiliate me. Now it's my turn. She turned to face the camera directly, speaking not just to Kimmel, but to everyone watching. I want everyone out there to understand something. What you've witnessed here tonight isn't journalism. It isn't honest conversation. It isn't even good television. What you've witnessed is what happens when someone with power decides to use that power to hurt someone who trusted them. Turning back to Kimmel, her eyes blazing with a righteous anger that commanded respect, she continued, "You asked me earlier about taking risks, Jimmy. Well, here's a risk for you. Here's me risking my reputation, my relationships, my carefully maintained image to tell you and everyone watching exactly what I think of what you've done here tonight." Kimmel opened his mouth to speak, but Jennifer's intensity silenced him before he could utter a word. "You are a coward, Jimmy Kimmel. You are a coward who hides behind the pretense of honesty to justify your cruelty. You are someone who has forgotten that the people you interview are human beings with feelings, with dignity, with worth that extends far beyond their entertainment value." The words rang through the studio like a bell, clear and undeniable. Every person present could feel the truth of them, the weight of a woman who had finally had enough. "And you know what the most pathetic part of all this is?" Jennifer continued, her voice steady despite the tears that had begun to form in her eyes. "I came here tonight excited to see you. I came here thinking we were friends. I came here ready to share stories and laugh and give your audience a good time. But you decided that wasn't enough. You decided that you needed to try to break me down instead." She shook her head, and when she spoke again, her voice was filled with a sadness that was somehow more devastating than her anger had been. "I feel sorry for you, Jimmy. I feel sorry for someone who has so little joy in their own life that they need to steal it from others. I feel sorry for someone who has become so cynical that they mistake kindness for weakness and confuse cruelty with strength." Kimmel stood behind his desk, his face pale, his usual confidence completely shattered. The audience remained silent, sensing that anything they might do would be inadequate to the moment they were witnessing. Jennifer walked back to the guest chair, not to sit down, but to pick up her purse. As she slung it over her shoulder, she looked one last time at Kimmel, and when she spoke, her voice carried the finality of a door closing forever. "You know, Jimmy, you were right about one thing tonight. This conversation was honest. It was honest about who you really are underneath all the jokes and the charm. It was honest about what you think of the people who trust you enough to come on your show. And it was honest about the kind of person you've chosen to become." She started walking toward the exit, but then stopped and turned back one final time. "I hope it was worth it, Jimmy. I hope that whatever you got out of trying to humiliate me tonight was worth losing the respect of everyone who witnessed it." I hope it was worth showing the world exactly who Jimmy Kimmel really is when the cameras are rolling and he thinks he has power over someone. With that, Jennifer Aniston walked off the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live, leaving behind a stunned studio audience, a humiliated host, and a moment of television that would be replayed and discussed for years to come. She had entered that studio as America's sweetheart, but she left as something even more powerful, someone who had finally said enough is enough and refused to be anyone's victim. The cameras kept rolling as Kimmel stood behind his desk, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, completely unable to find words to fill the void that Jennifer's departure had left behind. The audience remained frozen, unsure whether to applaud her courage or simply sit in the uncomfortable silence that her truth had created. What do you think really motivated Jimmy Kimmel's shocking behavior that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories from Hollywood's most dramatic moments.